Well, hey, and welcome to another episode of Beetle Dustino coming at you again today with yet another video. And I'm going to do a what if video today. And I'm going to do a new version of a what if video. My very first what if video I did on the Capitol Albums Volume 3. What if that happened? What if that still could happen? What would be the 4 albums that would go on to it? And I did this as one of my very first videos. It was one of my very first videos to get very popular. It was very well promoted by Matthew Street. Thank you very much. And I was really shocked how fast that grew. And it seems like anything I do on these Capitol albums seems to do very well. So I've really thought, with what I proposed for the 4 albums on it, I knew it might not be the perfect list, but I've really listened to my comments and what everybody said on it and what their lineup would be, and I'm kind of agreeing with everybody. I'm agreeing with my audience here. I think there could be a little better lineup. So that is what I'm going to talk about today: the new What If on Capitol Albums Volume 3. All right, but before we get started with that, I do want to thank all those subscribers, and thanks to any new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and do hit the notification bell. Also, please give the video a like I always say. It really helps out the channel. And do leave a comment. I love having a discussion with everybody. So definitely let me know your thoughts on this. As a matter of fact, I am going to leave this as a proposed question on this, on what you think, because I'm going to propose kind of 5 albums, because there were 2 that seem to be very popular in the list there. Kind of see what you say on this. So anyways, let's get on with the video. So yeah, we're discussing what would happen if Capitol Albums Volume 3 either would have existed or for some reason got released yet today. So of course, we're talking about Volume 1, came out in 2004. This was on November 16th of 2004 this was released. And it was a nice little box set, kind of a unique thing, kind of a surprise thing too, considering that in 87 the catalog had kind of been standardized for the Beatles, and they had released out included Magical Mystery Tour, so the one Capitol album, US album, that kind of got adopted into the core stuff. And then they put out the Past Masters Volume 1 and 2 at the time. Now it's just called Past Masters, which included all your non-album singles, EPs, B-sides, stuff like that. So since then, there's really been no need for the US albums, except for the fact that these were such a different mix. And that's why the US albums box set that came out about 10 years later from this, I don't think really resonated with people. The packaging is beautiful, don't get me wrong, especially compared to these. And this is kind of surprising. These aren't as packaged as well as some Beatles stuff has been lately. It's still a nice package, but it's not up to Beatles standards, I don't think, anymore. So if they did something new, I would sure hope they do something a little better than what they did here. Because it slides out like this, and then you got this weird, and you got to be careful sliding it out too, because they'll fall out. One of the big complaints, especially with Volume 1 here, and you got this little cube then. So you got the book in there, the disc in here. And I'm not going to pull the disc out, but you got Meet the Beatles, Beatles' second album, Something New, and Beatles 65 in this particular box. And then we've also got, give me a second here, also got Volume 2, which features the early Beatles, Beatles 6, Help, and Rubber Soul, the US versions of those 2 albums. And one thing with these, though, is they do feature those Dave Dexter Jr. supervised mixes. So you got some extra reverb, certain albums, the songs were kind of sped up slightly, tons of reverb, of course, different little add-ons. Some got different lines, some got different false starts, some got different this, some got different that. So there's some differences in them versus the UK albums. And that was one thing that was cool on this. The US albums box, they did include some of the kind of the oddities, but not all, where these got all your oddities. So one thing I know with the US albums box, if it had the heavy reverb, that was usually left off. You got it in all of its reverby gloriousness on these. So yeah, it was kind of, obviously Volume 2 and Volume 1 didn't complete the list. There were still some US albums out there, still some Capitol albums. I know there was a rumor Volume 3 was going to happen. So, of course, Volume 2 came out in April 11th of 2006. And as we all know, the stereo remasters of the core catalog came out on September 9th of 2009. So 9/9 of 09, number 9, number 9, number 9. And I think that's part of why 3 never happened, is because it would have, this came out 04 for volume 1. Volume 2 came out in 06, so 2 years out. So it would have put you, if they would have done the next 2 years, would have put volume 3 in about 2008. And they knew there was going to be that big set coming out in 2009. I think that was probably well in the planning, well known. Probably when volume 2 came out, it was probably known that that was going to happen on September 9th, that you were of 2009. You were going to get that stereo remaster. The album's all reissued again, the big box set coming out too, all that. And I think that's part of what killed volume 3. Now, the other thing is what would have went into it. Yes, there's missing stuff, but it gets a little complicated too. So of course there's no A Hard Day's Night. That really shouldn't be in this box because it's the Capitol albums. That was United Artists. So that shouldn't be in there. There was no Introducing the Beatles. Again, that was, not a Capitol album. That was a VJ's album. So that doesn't make sense in there. Now, in my old video, I promoted the Canadian albums because there were 3 Canadian albums that came out, one of which came out before any of them, even Introducing the Beatles came out in the US, but that was Beatlemania with the Beatles. All that that was, though, was with the Beatles with just kind of a different name and slightly different cover. Otherwise, the mix was the same, the song listing was the same. I think it only came out in mono at the time. I think later in the 70s you could get it in stereo, but yeah, that really wasn't that different than what the UK stuff was. But they did have Twist and Shout and Long Tall Sally had came out too. And Twist and Shout's basically Please Please Me, though a little different. And Long Tall Sally is, I don't know, it's similar to something else too. So you're kind of similar on that, but I kind of propose those as being the volume 3 sets, being as they were Capitol releases. So we're saying the Capitol albums. It never said the Capitol, US Capitol albums. It just says Capitol albums. So those Canadian ones would still be classified as Capitol albums. And I'd love to see those get issued on CD at least. So the obvious picks, though, for volume 3 would be Revolver, the US version of Revolver. Slightly different, missing a few songs. Andrew Bird Can Sing, Dr. Robert, and I'm Only Sleeping are missing off of this, but nothing was added. Some of the mixes, I think, are maybe slightly different. I don't know for sure. So that one would be an obvious one. The other obvious one would be Yesterday and Today. This would have been kind of the next in the lineup there. Now, after this album is where it gets kind of tricky, though. Which ones would you do next? So, of course, the US albums box set that came out did include, let's see, after Yesterday and Today, you'd get Hey Jude. And I think I'm going to throw that in there. They did skip Magical Mystery Tour. But I think if this would have came out in 2008, and even if they would redo it today, I think this would be interesting in there to get its recognition as a Capitol album. And that would be Magical Mystery Tour. And I'm going to propose that for my 3rd disc in this What If 4-disc volume 3. 4-disc volume 3. There we go. So this will be disc 3 in there. The one thing with the packaging that they did with this is just very basic, just cardboard sleeves, not like mini LP like the US albums box set is. So with this being the cool gatefold, with the little booklet and everything in the gatefold, all that, it would be kind of sad to see this just relegated to just a cardboard sleeve. So that's one thing with Magical Mystery Tour. Now, I know there's some different mixes on, I believe, the mono version with I Am the Walrus has got a couple little differences, so that would be cool to have that on there. I don't think that's ever been released on CD, so that would be really cool to have. But yeah, I'm going to propose that as my disc number 3. And I'm going to go in my what if on this. I'm going to say Hey Jude should be the next one included. Even though this is really an Apple label, it was still distributed by Capitol. So it is still, and it was done up by it wasn't Dave Dexter Jr. on this one. Of course, this was Alan Klein's doing. Good doing, though. He did a couple of good things. Odd track listing with Can't Buy Me Love kicking it off, and then not long later, you're into like Rain and Help and Rain and what am I saying here? Rain and Old Brown Shoe and stuff like that. So quite a jarring move there, as you saw in my album ranking last video there. One of the last videos. I really kind of went on and on about that when I was putting this in the ranking there. Yeah, I think that would be the true proper lineup, the more I think about it. And with what I saw people saying in my comments, that was it. Now, the other ones that got a lot of added on in the comments and other people's lineup for the perfect volume 3, 4 albums. This one was brought up quite a bit. The Beatles Live at the Hollywood Bowl, which came out on May 4th of 1977. So one reason why I don't really want to include this one is the fact that it is more the 70s, well after the breakup, and it is a live album. So, I mean, that kind of puts it in an odd spot. But, you know, this was kind of a capital done thing, so that maybe does make sense. And I kind of agree with my commenters on that. The other one, and this one was the one I really struggled with putting as my fourth disc over Hey Jude, was the Rarities album that came out on March 24th of 1980. I only wrote an 8 on my notes. I knew what I meant, though. If you saw me looking kind of funny there, I was looking down and going, of 8? Not 2008, that was 1980. Or even the year 8, I don't know. I don't think they were releasing albums in the year 8. But yeah, Rarities would be a good one too, I agree. And that would be interesting to see yet released in the modern era. I know they kind of have said, you know, those compilations are kind of pointless at this point, but hey, we just got a reissue of the Red and the Blue albums. So, I mean, I think people really gravitated to over the years. Red and the Blue albums came out in '73, but then some of those other compilations like Rock and Roll Music and Love Songs and stuff like that came out in the late '70s, or, you know, as Rarities came out in the '80s. Even some people might be into real music and that came out in the early '80s. I think that would be a fun other what if proposal, is what if, and I've done a what if on that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tag that in the description below on kind of the compilations, the 70s and 80s compilations that aren't out there anymore, never got reissued in the modern era here, especially on CD. And tons of bootlegs out there. People have bootlegged them left and right. So, I mean, clearly people want them on CD. So why not officially release them? It'd be fun, especially with the mini LP packaging, which is what I proposed in that video. However, my original videos, I have a hard time watching them. I went and rewatched the original video on this just to kind of see where my mindset was a year or so ago, and just see how different my videos look to a year or so ago. I was like, wow, this looks really different. And I'm still saying, but yeah, there we go. And there we go. That's my new one. That's my new one, is there we go. You probably don't notice it because I try to cut them out, but there we go. But yeah, there is my proposal for my new proposal for a volume 3 of the Capitol albums. So yeah, I'm gonna go pretty solidly Yesterday and Today, Revolver, Magical Mystery Tour, and Hey Jude make a lot of sense, but I can see the strong argument to the Live at the Hollywood Bowl, or the Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl, and Rarities. Live at the Hollywood Bowl is a whole other animal that came out just a few years ago. So, but it is the Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl, just with a slightly different title and a few added on tracks. The Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl and Rarities, I see the strong argument for them, and I could see that. But I'd like to see those in a different box set, and, you know, so forth and so on. But yeah, so let me know. Let me know too. Have you ever heard? Like I said, I know they were proposing that it was going to happen. It was rumored it was definitely going to happen. Volume 3. I'm curious what the lineup was going to be. I would assume they would stick with this formula, you know, a box similar to this with the four albums in the slip sleeves, and call it good, the little booklet. And, you know, I would assume it would be similar to these two if it would have came out. And what would have those 4 albums been? That in itself is a what if, and that's why I'm making this video, I suppose. So, but anyways, I do want to keep this as short as I can. The other one was only 8 minutes, 9 minutes or so. So I want to try to keep this around that same time, and I feel like I'm rambling, and I tend to ramble nowadays, so I'm going to get myself cut off on rambling. Now I'm rambling about rambling. Ramble on. But yeah, there we go. That's my proposal. I think I've said yeah, but yeah, there we go. That's my proposal several times now. So I'm going to get signing out. There we go. Now I know to tag to put my thing in there. Before I do get signed out, though, I do want to thank all my subscribers, and thanks to any new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And also do hit the notification bell so you know when I got new videos coming out. Do also give the video a like, and especially if you stuck around to this point, you must like it, so give it a like, and do leave a comment. I love having a discussion with everybody. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you think that would be the proper lineup if they would have done a volume 3, or do you think it should be one of those other 2 albums instead of Hey Jude there at the end? I don't know. I don't think you could go wrong with any of those 3 options. I think The weaker one would be the Hollywood Bowl one, but Rarities or Hey Jude, I think you'd go pretty right with either of those. There we go. That's my proposal. I'm sticking to it. Maybe we'll do a volume 4 one day. You could almost do a volume 4. Then that puts in the problem, though, do you have to do a volume 5 if we're only doing 4 albums at a time? So, anyways, I have rambled enough and spoke enough. I am signing out. I am Beetle Dustino, signing out.